Oh, we're live.
All
Okay.
right.
Hi. Hi, Tatyana. Welcome to Venture with
Yeah.
Grace.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here with you again, Grace.
Yeah. Oh my God. So, Tatyana and I met at a conference in AWS. So I was hosting her panel, and then she was such a natural. Like right after her panel, people were like flunking in to talk about if AI um, is like actually gonna actually have feeling or not, which is like a really important topic. Okay, so right before that, I want to insert a quick commercial about my conference. So, this weekend, I just launched my conference, which is in April 9 in Silicon Valley Bank Experience Center. And everyone welcome to use the code Venture with Grace to get half off. Okay, so going back to Tatiana. Okay, so I want to start with, you have quite an interesting journey. You started your career in Leo Burnett, and then now you are a tech executives. Why don't we talk about like what were some core lessons that you've learned from, I guess, the marketing era to like where you
Yes.
are now?
Yeah. Well, I started my career in advertising in
Mhm,
1996. It was a very, very different era in the
mhm,
late 1990s. As soon as I joined the ad agency, I became the emerging technology specialist at Leo Burnett
mhm,
because I had been on the internet before and I knew how to use
mhm,
email. I mean, it was that basic. And so they asked me to be involved with making basically the project management around Leo Burnett's very first website.
mhm,
This was 1996. The visual browser had just
mhm,
launched. 1994, 1995. Yahoo had just launched in 1995. So, it was very early days, and I became wrapped up in the internet era. So a lot of
mhm,
lessons learned, many of which were that, first of all, in the late 1990s, for those who remember, uh, a lot of people were like thinking that this whole .com thing was just a fad and was going to blow over, right? It's just a
mhm,
fad; it's going to blow over. The when in 2000, when we saw the .com bubble crash,
mhm,
that was like validation for a lot of people that like this internet thing, it was never going to go anywhere. It was just a flash in the pan. And a lot of people were like, why are we putting these, why are you spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to put brochures on this internet thing? Right. So, lesson number one is that when new technologies happen, there are going to be a lot of people who really doubt that it's going to be meaningful and are, really naysayers and are saying, like, this is going to just go back to the old days. This is just a fad.
mhm,
Lesson number two is that in the early days, I don't know if, again, for those who lived through this era, intranets were going to be the big
mhm,
thing. So,
mhm,
the people who actually made money and what most of the buzz was about in the 1990s when the internet was new was
mhm,
intranets, i.e., helping employees find their own information faster.
mhm,
Sound familiar? So,
mhm,
with the AI age, what we see again is all of these companies saying, "Hey, the big thing is going to be to help employees become more productive with their own documents." Same discussion
mhm,
as in the 1990s around intranets. And
mhm,
now, if you ask people, okay, are the top companies in the world intranet companies or are they internet companies, right?
mhm,
And obviously, we know the answer to that, right? They're companies that actually didn't do the internal workflow, employee workforce productivity thing. They're companies that really stepped back and said, where is this technology going? What is now possible? And how do we harness it to do something new and amazing? So,
mhm,
those are the two big lessons. The first is you're always going to have a lot of naysayers, and those naysayers are going to have blips where they're almost correct, but
mhm,
actually, again, change just takes time. And then in the end, it's going to be huge. And then the second one is initially, people are going to think that using the technology to do things that people are already doing is going to be the big opportunity. But again, those people are really myopic, and it's actually going to be much bigger than what we ever imagined.
mm. I wonder, so like I guess like after, I mean, I totally feel like right now we're in the entire AI wave. Why don't we quickly talk about like, your past experience at Pendo or at as a chief product officer of Nextdoor, like, what were some core lessons before we jump into, Wayfound?
Yeah. So I've been working with AI since 2014, actually since Salesforce,
Mhm,
and working on the Lightning Experience redesign at first, where really when we were thinking about what is the key problem
mhm,
that CRMs can't solve, and how do we
mhm,
really reimagine, really databases and CRMs in the context of how do they use databases. Unstructured data was always the biggest problem. We knew that
mhm,
we were losing 90% of all the relevant data by having to structure it and put it into these preset schemas, right? Because
mhm,
most information is actually doesn't fit into a schema, doesn't fit into
mhm,
any structure. Um,
mhm,
and so that problem came up again and again and again and again throughout my tech career, whether it was at Salesforce or AWS or Nextdoor or Pendo. The key problem is that there is so much happening in the world that when you try to capture what's happening in the world and build experiences that are relevant to people, you need to be able to work with unstructured, chaotic data, because
mhm,
that's actually where most of the signal is. A lot
mhm,
of the schematized data, right, that data scientists use or that we
mhm,
use for old school ML algorithms is
mhm,
actually it's basically our own preconceptions inside the company of what
mhm,
customers should be doing or what should be important to our
mhm,
customers. And often that's that's just our bias making its way into how we interpret customer data. In order to get real signal about what is really meaningful to people, we need to live with unstructured data. So, that problem has been plaguing me for basically my entire tech career,
mhm,
is how do we actually deal with the real data about the world and what customers care about? And with LLMs, that's the solution, right?
mhm,
LLMs do not need structured data.
mhm,
They can deal with, really chaotic, unstructured data. That's also why they're non-deterministic, why they need to
mhm,
be managed, which we can talk about later, which is what Wayfound
mhm,
does. But that problem being solved, being able to actually access the 90% of the data that we
mhm,
used to just throw away in our data cleansing and ETL processes, like,
mhm,
is really, really important. And that's
mhm.
like the biggest challenge that I saw in my previous tech career. And that's why I'm so passionate about this new AI era.
For sure. You talk about like unstructured data, and why don't we talk about like, I guess, like, how, like, because right now I feel like there is a lot of company that does help with like, I guess, categorizing the unstructured data, and or I don't know what's the correct word, but I guess like maybe we could talk about like, I feel like we found is like an agent for the agent. So like maybe we
Yes.
start with defining what is an AI agent, and then we could talk about like how does it help with managing other agents.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the definitive paper, in my opinion, on what is an AI agent is
Mhm,
Anthropic's paper on building effective agents.
mhm,
I have a synopsis of this as well on my LinkedIn profile.
mhm,
But really, there are two types of agentic systems right now
mhm,
that are becoming big. The first one is agentic workflows, where you have a
mhm,
preset workflow and you do an LLM call to do something within that workflow. That's
mhm,
not an agent. Okay. What an agent is it's essentially an intelligence, right?
mhm,
A system that is wired up with the context. It's trained on context that to help it make decisions, and it's
mhm,
trained on examples of processes in the past that have worked. So it's
mhm,
really like Mark Benioff calls it a digital worker.
mhm,
Dario Amodei calls agents virtual colleagues. That is the best way to
mhm,
think of them. We think of them as LLM based interns, okay? Because,
mhm,
and the reason why is because they are, technical. They are,
mhm,
LLM based, but they're also workers who are really nascent in their understanding of your company and your business process. So they
mhm,
really need a lot of training. And so AI agents, what happens is because they are essentially based on LLMs, they can do pretty much almost anything that a human worker in front of a screen can do if they are hooked up and connected to tools. Again, if you bring in a intern, you're going to have to give it logins to lots of different tools. You're going to have to train it, right, on what do these tools mean? When should you use this particular tool versus another tool? You have to do the same thing with an agent. Okay. So you train it, you say, here are the tools you have access to. Here is some information about, the company and about the process that you're supposed to be working on. And then you allow it to make the decisions. Okay. So that is an agent. An agent is an LLM based intern that you have in your company, that you are, training it on all the tools that it can, use to do its job. You need to give it all of the information and all the context, right, to do its job. And then you let it cook, you let it run, right? So, and the great thing is that LLMs, again, as they become more capable, actually make better decisions about what's the right process to achieve the goal than humans do. So if you tie LLMs, if you tie these agents to a preset workflow, you're often creating a suboptimal result. So that's the interesting thing about it. It's like playing chess, right? It's like the chess games and the AI systems that were trained by humans about what are good chess moves versus right the chess LLM based systems or the chess AI systems that actually just self play and figure out their own moves that humans never pre-programmed. So with agents, you want them to be able to create the workflow on the fly based on what they know about the company, what they know about the tools that they have access to, the actions they can take, and the problem, right, that's in front of them. So that means that it's scary. And the reason it's scary is because now you, as the human manager that's responsible for this intern, don't have total control over it, right? Because it's making decisions, right? When you write a workflow, you know exactly how the computer is going to run that workflow, right? Every single time it does this, then it does this, then it does this, then it does this, right? And so it's, you don't have to think about what it's doing. With a LLM based intern, you have to manage it. Interns need a lot of management, which is the problem now. And so we created Wayfound in order to solve that problem. We give the business owners that have these LLM based interns on their teams full visibility and control over what is the agent doing. Here are my guidelines of what good looks like. I set my alerts about when I want to get alerts if one of the guidelines is violated by the AI agent. And then the manager, we have an AI agent that's a manager of other AI agents. The manager sends me suggestions of what to do to basically either fix the intern, like fix the intern's knowledge base or their directives or their connection to different tools in order to make it function better. So Wayfound is an AI agent that manages other AI agents so that the companies and the business owners that are putting in place these LLM-based interns can have real confidence and control and visibility over what they're doing without having to go to their engineering team every single time. And the engineering team also doesn't have the context about what's right, what's wrong, which workflow is correct or incorrect. If the agent comes up with something totally new and creative, how does the engineer know, right? Whether that's okay or not? No, only the business user knows, right? Only the business owner knows. And so that's what we provide.
Totally. I wonder, so like, how do you think about, I guess, like creating the product on its own? So like, because on your website, obviously, I feel like Wayfound could be used for like so many things. You mentioned about the engineering case, and then hi Mustafa. So like, I wanted to say hi to the audience. Okay, so I wonder, how do you think about what would, like, I guess, like, who is like the ideal ICP at the beginning? Like, I guess, like, who is this built for? Because I feel like building for like an engineering agent is very different than like, the assistant people have for to like booking travel and everything else. I guess what would be the most ideal use case for the very beginning user for Wayfund?
Yeah. Well, the user is the business owner who has this LLM based intern, this AI
Mhm.
agent working in their function, right?
Mm.
So oftentimes our main user is
Mhm.
the product manager who is responsible for AI, who's creating
Mhm.
the business requirements for the AI agent. Um, or, for example, the functional line owner, for example, the person who owns customer
Mhm.
service, they want
Mhm.
direct visibility. The VP of customer
Mhm.
service or customer success, they want direct visibility into what their AI agents are doing without having to go to the log files or request transcripts from the IT team.
Mm.
But the IT team, often what we actually have is we'll have a conversation with the business owner
Mhm.
because they are the user of the platform. The platform is very easy to use. It doesn't look like an engineering platform. It doesn't look like an IDE. You don't have to be able to read
Mhm.
JSON or log files. You write in natural language, and we give you nice dashboards that any business user can see and will love.
Mhm.
But what happens is that the IT team and CTOs love the platform because what they find is that after they deploy agents, they can't mark done like they could
Mm.
with other software systems. And so after they deploy agents, what often happens is that their engineering teams get just bogged down with requests from the business users and the business owners like, hey, can you pull this transcript? Oh, I got a complaint from a customer who said the agent did this. Can you find it? Right. And they're constantly being taken off of their actual work with requests from the
Mhm.
business about finding this or that or creating dashboards or accountability for their agents. And by having Wayfound, you can offload all of that work. So yes, this is the Wayfound platform. We have an
Mhm.
agent manager that helps you, do like supervision, alerts, performance management, suggestions for improvement, all of these things so that the IT team, right, or the engineering team can be freed up to actually do their engineering work and not constantly have to report on and supervise these AI agents, which becomes very, very time consuming and therefore very costly for the company.
I wonder, so like basically you're saying, so like I guess like does the agent write the code it's on its own, or like does the engineer writes code but like the agent just like manage to, let's say, like report like what the engineer have done, or like I guess like how do you think about the agent's role in this I guess like in the process of like creating products?
Yeah. So our AI manager, right,
Mhm.
steps in as a manager, right, after the
Mhm.
agent is built. There are so many agent building platforms
Mhm.
today, and there's more coming out every day, right? OpenAI
Mhm.
just launched one.
Mhm.
There's so many. We're working very closely with Agentforce and SnapLogic as well with their agent building platforms for enterprise grade agents. So there's lots and lots of different ways to build agents. I'm certain there's going to be a no code agent builder very, very soon as
Mhm.
well for normal business users to be able to just write agents
Mhm.
and then have them managed up by Wayfound. But
Mhm.
what we do very much is once your agent is built, exactly, we have the
Mhm.
manager that basically is able to supervise and help you understand transparently what is happening with your agent. Like, what is your agent doing, whether it's a customer support agent, a customer onboarding agent, a lead generation agent, a marketing agent, an agent that writes business insights. We also have an investor update agent, right? Very important for us to monitor what our investor update agent is telling our investors. And so that, manager really helps the business owner feel like, okay, now I've got my agent built and I understand what it's actually doing, right, in my
Mhm.
business as it's performing its job. So that's
Mm.
really where we step in. And our AI agent manager does not write the agents. You can build them
Mm.
wherever you want, but with a very simple set of APIs or an SDK, if you want that, you can plug your agent right into Wayfound no matter where you built it, and we can manage it.
Mm. I wonder, so like what does a result kind of look like? Or like I guess like who I guess like what's a finalized form of the agent's work? So like I guess like how do we check the agent manager's work? Do we have to go back to customer support, marketing, and lead generation, like everything all together? Or like how do we make sure that like it's not hallucinating or like there's no mistake for the agent?
Yeah.
I Yeah.
So it's very easy in Wayfound. You just write the guidelines. You tell
Mhm,
our manager, here are the guidelines that this agent needs to follow. So for
mhm,
example, is our brand voice and tone, right? Make
mhm,
sure that the agent is always adhering to these words, this tone, this brand voice, this
mhm,
type of, attitude, right? So you might say that. You might also
mhm,
say, never perform this action before this action, or if you perform this action, always perform this action next. So that could be another guideline, right? If the agent is performing a multi-step sort of process.
mhm,
Um, and then our manager is watching, real-time supervising everything
mhm,
that your agent is doing. If you
mhm,
decide to, connect through, putting live streams of events into our
mhm,
platform, which most of our customers do, we will read real time as like literally so the manager is supervising, watching your agent
mhm,
do its work with your guidelines in mind. So every
mm,
time, right, the agent is
mhm,
doing something, our manager is watching real time,
mhm,
right? And anytime it sees, oh, wait, there's been a guideline violation or
mhm,
a tool or an action like failed, or the user was really unhappy with something the agent said, right? Our manager goes off and then
mhm,
logs that and says,
mhm,
if you ask for an alert, if that a real-time alert, when that happens, you'll get an instant alert as well.
mm,
So you can think about it again as like eyes on your agents all the time, right? And you need
mm,
an independent platform to do that,
mhm,
because you don't want the people who build the agent or the platform that builds the agent to be grading its own work, right? You need
mhm,
an independent third party manager who is really working for you and only you to
mhm,
be watching what your agents are doing, right?
mm,
Real time. And that really gives you the confidence and control, because we're working with one customer that has like 2 million interactions
mhm,
with customers through their agents. No human could ever sample the transcripts required to be able to manage these agents,
mm,
right? And so once you get through a particular scale, you really need an AI agent to be watching your AI agents, and you need that AI agent to be working for, not for the built-ins, because I mean, there's a conflict of interest there, right? So,
mm,
so that's the key, right, to being successful. Like building the agents is really easy. Being
mhm,
really successful with them in your business is really, really hard, right? Because you need
mm.
eyes on what these agents are doing all the time.
Mm. I have a question on that. So this past week I went to the NVIDIA GTC, and
Hmm.
then I feel like I've chat with a lot of like robotics founder or like people working in robotics. They were introducing a concept to me which is like reinforcement learning. So
Yes,
essentially it's like the AI learn on its own.
yes.
And I guess like if we have an AI agent, how do they learn on its own? Like how if we have an AI agent for AI agent, like how do they learn on its own?
Yeah, so there's two ways, right, that
Mhm,
we in our platform, right,
mhm,
we help our manager agent learn and then also
mhm,
pass on that learning to managing AI agents, right?
mhm,
So just like a human manager, you want them to become better managers, to learn
mhm,
on the job about how to become better managers, right? So the first one is reinforcement learning through human feedback. So we do
mm,
have a human feedback mechanism to tell the manager, hey, you did this well, or you like let's I wrote that guideline that way, but the way the manager interpreted it in reality
mhm,
was not how I intended. So
mhm,
there is a human feedback mechanism
mhm,
for you who's managing the manager, right, to
mhm,
tell the manager, actually you're doing this not the way that I intended, here's what I actually meant. Okay, so there's the human feedback loop. The
mhm,
second loop, of course, is actually looking at how well the agents perform based on the manager's suggestion. So this, in a lot of terminology, is called self-play, right? So it's being
mhm,
able to learn from many, many examples of when the agent just works on something independently or simulates a process independently of a human, because there's a reward function built in, and it just tries to like create as many iterations of what
mhm,
it's doing to optimize the reward function, right? So if we created a reward function that is, for example, optimize the CSAT score, right, customer satisfaction score in the AI agent without violating any guidelines. The manager, right now, the manager does that through the management of the agents again and again and again and again, right? So the more volume and over time that we have the manager watching this agent, the better it becomes, right? At managing that particular agent. The other thing that we have plans to do is to do the simulation piece, right? Being able to allow customers to create some scenarios and then simulate millions of variations of those scenarios within the platform to allow the manager to understand how to best manage the agents, right? So both of those aspects in reinforcement learning, right, through human feedback and then through self-play, right? Both of those are built into our system.
Wait, so I have a question on that. So like how does the process kind of look like? So for example, should they prioritize? I'm sure they would prioritize the human feedback first, or does they I guess I got the machine feedback first. Like how do you basically integrate all the feedback together? And then yesterday I was like basically asking Anthropic to or like Cloud to like draft me certain things, and then like when they were making copies, so like different copy have different things, and then it's like when you're trying to change a lot of things, it's just like really hard to function. And I guess like how does the agents like thinking logic kind of look like behind the scene? I don't know if my question even makes sense.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
So it totally does. So a few things. So right now, we
Mhm,
are on the OpenAI's O3 model.
mhm,
So that's what our
mhm,
manager is running on. And,
mhm,
we switch models all the time and we try out models all the time because it's
mhm,
very easy to switch models for our platform. And what we found actually is that when we switched to O1 initially
mhm,
from 4.0, the reasoning just became much, much, much better.
mm,
And, we were able to see you know some aspects of what is happening inside the logic, not all of it, right?
mhm,
We don't have the full visibility into completely, right, what's going on
mhm,
inside the LLM, but it's good enough where we can really understand and trust that the
mhm,
reasoning of the manager agent is
mhm,
taking a lot of information into account. So that's one of the things about this technology too, is you
mhm,
really have to do a lot of trial and error and iteration, right,
mhm,
as you pick your models, and in order to build trust with the agent that's the supervisor, right? The
mhm,
supervisor agent needs a dedicated team that's looking at, okay, what is going on with this manager? What is happening with its logic and reasoning? Should we switch to another model? Is another model out there that's better? All of that.
mhm,
Because remember, this is why, a lot of companies are like, well, maybe we could just DIY this ourselves, because
mhm,
the actual dashboards that we have don't look that complex,
mhm,
but behind the scenes, there is a lot involved in ensuring that the manager agent is functioning well, is functioning at the right level, does not have model drift, right? And is getting the right feedback from our team of dedicated engineers that's all they do, right? That's all they do is manage this manager model, all of
mhm,
our engineers. And so that's
mhm,
really the key piece. And that's really very non-trivial to make sure that it's working well, as you said, right? Because you're like, wait, but then, because a lot of people are like, wait, but then who's
mhm,
managing the manager? How do we know that the manager is being supervised well? And the answer is, well, you need a dedicated team of engineers who
mhm,
really understands what is happening, what is the state of the art on supervising AI agents,
mhm,
and then kind of continuing to refine it and continuing to experiment with other models to ensure that
mhm.
we've got the best manager possible.
Mm, I guess like what does the backend look like? You mentioned about like you switch model from um
4.0 to
4.0
O1,
to oh 01.
and
Yeah,
then now
4.0
it's
to oh
O3.
01. And then what's a core difference between these two model? You mentioned about the reasoning
Yeah,
was different. Like I guess like what does that entail in terms of like coding or like building like a technical, I guess like management assistant?
yeah. So on the technical side,
Mhm,
as soon as we switched from 4.0 to the reasoning model, O1,
Mhm.
we saw a dramatic improvement in
Mhm.
the reasoning, the outcomes of the manager. And then we started to take away prompts. So we went
Mhm.
from, dozens of prompts to be able to, so in 4.0, you had to actually say, you used to have to do this like thing where you say, think step by step, right?
Mhm.
Or you used to have to like define the prompts for
Mhm.
the different steps. Um, with the reasoning models, the high level reasoning models, you don't have to
Mhm.
do that.
Mhm.
So we went from, many, many prompts to one. We erased
Mhm.
3,000 lines of code to
Mhm.
simplify the whole process. And now we can track and trace, right? What is the manager doing across, getting the answer to the questions that we
Mhm.
ask in the primary prompt? We're able to
Mhm.
structure the primary prompts correctly in order to get the manager to work the way that it needs to work without having to break down the
Mhm.
process of thinking step by step and all of the prompts that are required for each step.
Mhm.
So it was a pretty dramatic
Mhm.
change, and we actually have a blog post about it on our website as well, about what happened when we switched over to O1 and now O3. But that switch from O1 to O3 was dramatically improved in terms of the reasoning,
Mhm.
but it wasn't that different in terms of the structure of the product. The 4.0 to O1, the switch to
Mhm.
the reasoning model, I cannot emphasize enough
Mhm.
how dramatically different that
Mhm.
was to our product. Meaningfully different in terms of the performance, the accuracy, and the simplicity of the code. You can really trust it now to work as a human if you are structuring your your
Mhm.
system correctly, right? Which is the key piece here. So that I think not enough. Whenever I talk to even engineers here in San Francisco, very few of them have tried the high end, the new reasoning models, and actually build products with the new reasoning models. And I feel like that's actually causing so much still angst and anxiety about the technology, is because so few people have actually used the state of the art models. So if you're a developer, my ask is just use O1 or
Mhm.
O3 to build your product or rebuild your product, and you will probably see a massive improvement. You'll be able
Mhm.
to trust the technology a lot more. So yeah.
I wonder, so like, what is the defensibility for building like a agent for agent? Just because I feel like any AI agent, a lot of people just say it's like a GPT wrapper or something like that. So how do you think about defensibility when the model behind the scene is kind of the same and like
Yeah.
how you program it kind of like makes a core difference, and how do you program it in a way that's like kind of defeatable, not
Yeah.
undefeatable?
So I love this. A16Z had a podcast, and they said that this is a funny thing to say about, like, oh, it's just a GPT wrapper, and they can say like, well, all of SaaS software is just a SQL wrapper,
Mm.
right? So like Salesforce is really just like, a Oracle database wrapper. So the wrapper thing is um, the wrapper thing is kind of a distraction,
Mhm,
because basically all commercial
mhm,
software is just a wrapper on top of
mhm,
fundamental kind of software components. Um, Now, defensibility in the AI era will come
mhm,
from two sources. The
mhm,
first is a data moat. So
mhm,
being able to have some proprietary data that no one else has. And you can't get it through data that already exists. You need to be able to generate new data that will give you an
mhm,
advantage. So at Wayfound, because we've been managing agents for over a year,
mhm,
our own agents first, and then we started onboarding customers last summer,
mhm,
and seeing how agents work. So we've been at it for a year. We understand the metrics, and we
mhm,
have a common data dashboard where we can compare the performance of any agent to any other agent. It really doesn't matter what function those agents
mhm,
are in.
mhm,
We have a common set. We have a common dashboard. So that data that we already have, a year of data on, is quite significant, because when you want to, for example, bring in a customer service agent, you want to make a build versus buy decision, you can just put those agents plug 5 agents into Wayfound, and we will give you a common dashboard to be able to compare all 5 of them against each other objectively, right? No one else has that. The second thing is brand. So brand trust is going to be really, really important because it is going to be very easy for kids out of college to build something that looks good but is not enterprise grade, and where where decisions are not going to be, let's just say, well thought through, because the people who are running the company haven't actually seen technological shifts play out before. So being able to have a partner, a trusted partner that you're partnering on this AI journey with, is really, really important. And so I think like the brand credibility and having, making sure that the people who are running the AI companies are people that you trust, that have been through this before, that understand how, progress is going to take shape, is going to be critically important. And we'll see a lot of these, early companies start to flame out because they're just, I think I already see some interesting decisions that during the internet era were also decisions that a lot of young startup founders made that it didn't end well at the end. So I do want to answer Crispin's comment here, which is painfully expensive in production environment. Again, this is to the point of you have to build it correctly and you have to know how to optimize, right? How the product works. Very, very hard to get it right on the first time, on the first try. So it is expensive if you're still building in the way that you were building with the old models, with the 4.0s. It's going to be really expensive because you're going to be running several different processes. But again, you have to really rethink entirely how you're building for the reasoning models. And that's what we've done. So it's non-trivial to switch over, but it dramatically improves the performance if you can get it right. And it's not overly expensive.
I wonder, how do you think about I guess like the go-to-market strategy, since like I saw that on your website you guys already have quite a few clients, and then how do you think about, like, I guess, like productizing and then also selling it? Is this based off, let's say, like how much usage, let's say how much user per seed, that's like the business model, or like, I guess, how do you think about the go-to-market strategy and then the whole like pricing strategy as well?
Yeah. So we go to market with two groups of companies. The first one is folks who already have AI agents in production, and they have a problem with scale. So their AI agents are working, they're working well, they're happy with them, and their problem is that they're working too well. So there are too many interactions that are happening, and they want to build potentially more agents for their customers or for their own companies to help with customer experiences. And they can't. They're log jammed in the fact that humans cannot possibly supervise all of these AI agents. So that is a big part of our our customer base, is people who already have agents in production, they're working well, and they're saying, like, our humans are reading literally 2,000 transcripts every day. For example, we had one customer come to us and say, we have a team reading 2,000 transcripts every day, and this cannot scale. And our people are exhausted and burnt out. And frankly, we're paying them too much money to be doing this low level work of reading transcripts. And we're the solution, right? Because we have an AI agent that will read all the transcripts, never miss anything, never miss a guideline, right? And so that's the solution. The second group of companies are those who they've decided, they've kind of played around with, with some agents, with their engineering team. And now the business is saying, okay, we're now ready to go in and actually start building production level agents that we're going to deploy to customers. And at that point, we have a set of tools and we have a toolkit that's agent first, human-centered design for creating AI agent strategy for your company, figuring out how to deploy these agents, and then helping you, basically guiding you along your journey to get to AI agent success. Again, usually companies can figure out how to build the agent on their own. Where they have real trouble is, okay, now how should we build it and then in order for us to be successful with it in the long term. And
Mhm.
that's where we really step in and help with a higher touch consulting engagement, and then help that team transition to a new way of working where the
Mhm.
people who used to do these low
Mhm.
level jobs are now
Mhm.
managing the agents,
Mhm.
right?
Totally. I wonder, so like, I mean, obviously I myself, I want an agent to do things for me. But for example, building like a I guess like a low code product, or just like a small, I guess like agent to do like a certain task. And
Mhm.
I wonder like for like, let's say to build an AI agent, or like leveraging your AI agent, like how do you think about for the non-coding related tasks? Because I feel like a lot of it takes a lot of context and nuance. Like,
Yeah.
you have to explain to it like 1,000 times, and then like the description itself, it's like 5 pages long. And how do you think about like creating a agent to do these like management related tasks? Since I feel like that's what a part of what Wayfound does too.
So again, we're not involved in really building the agents. And in most
Mhm.
cases, Grace, I would actually say there's a lot of platforms now where you can just buy
Mhm.
an agent that will
Mhm.
do what you want it to do. There are
Mhm.
so many, I mean, hundreds of startup founders, you probably met
Mhm.
them too at
Mhm.
GTC last week, who are building all like agents to read your email and respond well, an agent to clean up your data, an agent to create PowerPoint presentations, an agent to create Google Slides presentations.
Mhm.
So honestly, like there are so many AI agent startups right now. I would look at not building them, but just buying one off the
Mhm.
shelf, because I bet somebody has created something that you can just buy, right? And then you can
Mhm.
plug it into Wayfound, right? To have visibility over what it's doing. So
Mhm.
especially if you have, so the other pieces that you're going to have, if you do that, which I highly recommend people do, is go out, find, like we're working with a great company called Atlas AI, and they have an AI agent that manages all the billing processes for AI first companies and SaaS platforms. And
Mm.
and so like if you want help with billing and collections and getting your pricing strategy right, don't build that agent yourself. Just go hire
Mhm.
their agent. Just go
Mhm.
buy their agent, right? And
Mhm.
that's true of I think almost every task now. I
Mhm.
again, and then you're going to have all of these agents. You're going to have a
Mhm.
billing agent. You got to have a product management agent. You're going to have a customer success agent, all from different platforms. So the
Mm.
question is, are you going to go through to 16 different platforms with
Mhm.
16 different views on
Mhm.
how they're performing? No, you can just plug them all into Wayfound, right? And you have one
Mhm.
view with a common set of guidelines around how all your agents are doing. So that's the other
Mhm.
advantage that we have, which is you can manage your whole AI agent team, no matter where these agents come from, in one place.
How do you, I guess, like, what does a management journey kind of look like? And then how do you make sure that all the agents are functioning cohesively? Let's say if I want an agent that writes my email, and then bill to my client, as well as, producing, I don't know, this podcast or something. How do I make the workflow function on the
Yeah.
back end?
So there are two pieces with the workflow function. There's the piece inside the agent itself to
Mhm.
basically, you're going to have to connect inside like the agent builder platform, or when you buy the
Mhm.
agent, you're going to have to connect an agent to another agent through actions. So essentially, when you set up an agent, you
Mhm.
define the actions that they can take. So one action could be call another agent for help, or
Mhm.
ask another agent to perform this task, right? So that's inside the platform. Inside
Mhm.
Wayfound, we give you visibility into your whole agent network, how they're all wired together, how many times they're interacting with each other, right? How many
Mhm.
times they're calling each other for help, how many times are, interacting with each other. And then another piece of it is we allow agents on completely different platforms to collaborate with each other. So if you
Mhm.
buy an AI agent, like from Qualified, for example, an SDR agent, and you
Mhm.
buy like a product management agent, from, Pendo, for example,
Mhm.
you can actually bring both of them together. They're not wired together because there's no reason for them to call each other in the course of their work, but you can bring them together in Wayfound to actually
Mhm.
answer questions like, does the product roadmap align to what customers are asking for, right?
Mhm.
So that's another way that we create these, a great organization of
Mhm.
agents that scales, because oftentimes, your agents are going to be siloed, and you do want to take advantage of
Mhm.
good build versus buy decisions. You don't want to be locked into just building all of your agents on the same platform, because
Mhm.
that's the only way that they can work together. Um,
Mhm.
we have a solution where you can buy a bunch of agents built on different platforms, build some yourself on different platforms, and then wire them all together and have
Mhm.
visibility.
I wonder, so like, so because I saw a lot of like big logos on your website, and then like, what's the ideal customer for this? Is it like for example, in the future, like everybody is running these like 1 to 10 people team that runs like I don't know, like bills like $100 million ARR or something. So like, how do you think about like the future of the AI workforce? And then like, I guess like, how do you think about like selling to audience that are like different sizes? Because obviously on your website there's like some big companies, and then there is based off what you described, it sounds like a lot like startup could be using this as well, or like maybe even individuals. What is I guess like the pricing kind of look like for the individuals versus like the big companies? And then if you're selling to big companies, I guess like um yeah, like I guess like how do you just like build the product that tailor to like the different size of audience?
Yeah. So so let me answer the pricing
Mhm.
question. So we have three pricing tiers: AI
Mhm.
Innovator, which is,
Mhm.
a smaller, usually for smaller startups.
Mhm.
Most individuals probably wouldn't need Wayfound as much,
Mhm.
but if you're a smaller startup and you're thinking about
Mhm.
scaling, right, you have one agent, the
Mhm.
Innovator plan might be great, because
Mhm.
you're probably not getting that much volume through your agent because you're a startup,
Mhm.
and it's very affordable.
Mhm.
And then we have a mid tier where you have more than one agent,
Mhm.
right? And we increase the number of transcripts that you're running through. And then for enterprises right now, we do it on a case by case basis. Honestly, we just see what their volume is and we right size them. We have a platform fee. That's the fee for, kind of the platform.
Mhm.
And then we have a certain number of credits that we will give to you to be able to do all the manager processing, be able to process all of the sessions that you're sending us. And obviously with some companies, with some enterprises, they're just getting started on their journey, and so they
Mhm.
don't have that much volume yet, so we make sure that it's affordable to them. With other customers, again, they have millions of transcripts that are being generated by their agents, millions of sessions that their agents are running, millions of jobs. So we
Mhm.
need to, we just work with them to make sure that the pricing and the ROI works. That's
Mhm.
the current model. Look, the pricing thing, I'll just be completely honest, that is all up in the air right now with AI products, right? And we just have to
Mhm.
be really flexible to make sure that the ROI is going to work in the near term,
Mhm.
because the reality is that the price of these things is going down dramatically. Like,
Mhm.
so the best models, those prices are decreasing all the
Mhm.
time. They're going to keep decreasing, right? We have some, I mean, energy is really the main issue on the cost side, right? We're keeping the prices high for these models. As the cost of energy goes down with a lot of the investments that are being made across the economy, it's really not going to be an issue very soon. And I really hope that companies don't look at the current costs and just stop, because the
Mhm.
cost of not doing anything right now, based on saving whatever, a couple $1,000s a month, or whatever, even $1 million a year, that is not, I mean, that's potentially a decision that will put you so far behind in the AI race that you're never going to catch up. So the cost will keep coming down for the top of the line models. And in the meantime, we work with customers to make sure it makes sense in the short term, because the ROI is going to be massive in the long term. The other thing that I think that we should all just level set on is that we need to think about our competitiveness in the long term by making this jump. So again, back to my experience with Leo Burnett, a lot of executives at Leo Burnett said we shouldn't build a website. This is a total waste of money. It's going to cost us, I think it cost, at the end of the day, about $700,000 to hire an external agency to design and build the first website. And the ROI of that was zero. No new clients came in through the website. But the cost of not doing that, right? So like you would look at that, and a lot of the executives were like, well, that was a total freaking waste of money. That made no sense at all. But if you know where advertising went in the next 5 years, if you were not an agency that had a website, you were behind. And clients didn't actually think that you could make the transition and the pivot into the era of AI advertising, or of internet advertising, right? Internet advertising was coming. And even though there was zero ROI in 1996, the cost of not doing a website in 1996 or 1997 was that you were dead by 2005. So that's the type of mentality that people need to understand. Don't let short-term thinking, right, actually kill your business in the long term.
How do you think about like ensembling an AI agent team? And then based off like the different type of workflow, do you have any templates? So for example, you mentioned about like you could use this for SDR, use that for PM, or ensemble like basically a workflow on Wayfound for your AI agents. And like, do you have like a typical template for people who are building a certain type of products? And how do you kind of like work with the core major user right now who are like working with Wayfound?
Yeah, so we don't have templates in the product, but we definitely have best practices that we walk our customers through with during onboarding and then and then beyond. So right now, we do have a fairly high touch approach to making sure customers are all successful. And in terms of assembling your AI agent team, I love that you asked me this, because everybody's worried about hallucinations. And they're like, how do I make sure that my agents have no hallucinations? It's like, remember, this is an intern. How can you make sure that your intern never says anything incorrect? You can't. You just have to closely manage them, right? And supervise them and give them feedback as soon as they do something wrong. So that's the short answer. This technology is just like a human. You can't 100% say that, it's never going to do something incorrect, or like hallucinations are really just, kind of confabulation, something that the agent said that sounds like it kind of is reasonable, but it wasn't actually accurate, right? I mean, very similar to something an intern would do. Now, the best way to assemble your AI agent team to reduce hallucinations is to have many agents working together and to make these agents really small and tight and experts on a specific field of knowledge, and not try to cram too many things into one agent. So some rules of thumb right now are no agent should have more than 5 tools connected to it. If it has more than 5, it starts to get confused. If you need to hook up more than 5 tools to any one agent, that should be 2 agents or 3 agents, right? Or if there are, create expert agents that work together and call on each other, as opposed to one massive, huge agent, because the more heterogeneous context, heterogeneous knowledge that you give that one agent, the more likely it is to be confused and to get confused. I, I love the comment there in the chat. So, so what I prefer to do, is to look at, okay, where can I build an expert? What is that small expert? So for example, with product management, one product manager does many different things, right? It synthesizes insights from customers. It, it manages the roadmap. It writes, they write PRDs, right? One product manager does a lot of different functions. At Wayfound, we split up each one of those different functions into an agent. So we have one agent that manages the roadmap. We have one agent that synthesizes insights from our customer discovery calls. We have one agent that writes agent requirement documents or product requirement documents, right? So those three functions that you might think, oh, this is a product manager agent, it should be able to do all these things. It works much better if you split up every single little function and create an agent that's an expert in that one function. And that really reduces hallucinations and makes the agents function better. And then just have them call on each other, right? So like when we're writing the product requirements writing agent calls on the customer discovery agent, right? And says, hey, give me the top 5 insights from customer discovery calls in the last month, right? And then it returns that back, and then that goes into the PRD. So that's the way that we, really have found. Again, this is all right now just kind of people learning how to build these things effectively. We found that is the most effective way to assemble your agent team. Make them tight little experts, and then make them call on each other for help.
So like if I use Wayfound, do I have to like pay for 7 different agents do my stuff, or like do they come with like a package? Like it's just like the behind the scene, you have like an agent for different things and then they collaborate with each other, or like do I have to manually manage my 7 agent that manage 7 agents?
You don't have to manually manage them, but we don't build them for you. So like we don't have pre-built. We have the pre-built manager. So we're the manager of your agents, right? So if you have a whole bunch of agents running around right now, and you're like, like, how am I going to manage these things? How do I know if they're successful? How do I know that they're saying the right words? How do I know that they're not going off the rails? How do I know? Like, that's what Wayfound is for.
Right. I mean, like, so I think you mentioned about like for each subcategory, there's like a agent to manage that subcategory. And then I wonder if Wayfound use one agent to manage my 5 agents, or do they use like maybe each agent to manage each category?
There's one agent manager. There's one agent manager, and because it's an AI agent, so again, our one agent is a tight expert. Its only job is to manage other AI agents. It doesn't know how to do customer, like our agent manager can't do customer support on its own. It can't do writing PRDs on its own, right? That's not what it's an expert in. Our agent manager, our AI agent that we've built and optimized, its only job is to be the best AI agent manager in the world. Its only job is to be like the absolute world's expert on how to make other AI agents successful. That's its job. Make sense?
Yeah, totally. Okay, amazing. I want to be mindful of time. Why don't we wrap with like a 1-minute fire round? Okay, what's your favorite book?
How Are We to Live by Peter Singer.
Who made the biggest impact in your career?
2 people. My first 2 bosses at Leo Burnett, T. Scott Edwards and Brenda Williams.
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Oh my gosh, so many people. Right now, probably if I could, Dario Amodei.
Where can we find you outside work?
Outside work? Ecstatic dance. I love ecstatic dance. Do it almost every weekend here in San Francisco.
What is ecstatic dance?
It's a form of free-flowing dance where you kind of tap into your life force energy and move right in this really ecstatic way. It's cultures all over the world do ecstatic dance. It's basically connecting to higher fields of energy through your body and moving the energy through. It's an incredible experience. It's very energizing and extremely helpful to executives, right, that are under a lot of stress and pressure, because it like brings the energy up into your body.
Last question. What's your favorite AI agent?
Well, I mean, the Wayfound manager, obviously. Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay, so wanted to quickly thank for the audience who joined us. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Yamlet. Hi, Mustafa. Okay, so thank you so much,
Yes.
Tatyana. And I really appreciate you. And then this was such a masterclass for AI agent.
All right.
The
Thank you.
AI agent that manages AI agent of this. Okay, let me quickly add stream. This is end.